going to give you guys 4 mistakes to avoid when investing in real estate. These are mistakes that investors made in the crash in 2008 and 2009. Obviously, they had never been through anything like that, so we get to learn from their mistakes and not run into the same roadblocks that they ran into. So let's get right into it. So the first mistake to avoid is not cash flowing. Cash flow is everything. If you're not cash flowing in the property, you can't pay your mortgage, and that money's coming out of your pocket. And if you can't sustain those dry spells when you're not cash flowing, you're ultimately going to lose your property. And that's exactly what investors in 2008 and 2009 did. They weren't cash flowing. They were buying on appreciation, meaning that they were buying a property for, let's just say, $300,000 and thinking it's going to be worth $400,000 6 months to a year later. And ultimately, the market went down, they weren't cash flowing, and they weren't able to refinance and get that appreciation that they planned on. And ultimately, they lost their properties, which goes into the second point, the wrong debt. You have the wrong mortgages in place. A lot of those people are doing adjustable mortgages, meaning that you'll buy a property at, let's just say, a 5% interest rate right now, but then in 2 or 3 years it would go up to a 10 or vice versa. It was an adjustable rate mortgage, so your debt would go up over time because you were planning on it appreciating. And all these is basically speculation. If you speculate on a property, you don't know the market, you're gonna lose, and you're gonna lose your property. But like I said, these people were doing adjustable rate mortgages, or they were doing balloon payments because they're thinking their property is gonna appreciate. Ultimately, it didn't, and that debt that they had in place really hurt them and put them in a bad position. The third thing is over leveraging. People were buying properties that they could not afford. You're buying a $300,000 property and it's not cash flowing great. Maybe it's cash flowing a couple $100, but then you have some vacancy. You're over leveraging with that debt. Another way you can over leverage is pulling out. We talked about it on my last video, is doing owner financing. If you don't do, if you don't analyze a property correctly and you over leverage, or you have too much debt on that property, that's going to put you in a bad spot if you can't sustain and put your own money into that property in order to keep yourself afloat until things get better. So over leveraging is another reason. The fourth reason, and one of the most important things, I think more important than everything, is having market knowledge or the location. So not only are you buying in bad locations, but let's just say you just don't know the location in general. Maybe somebody from Texas is buying a property in Virginia because the prices are lower, but they don't know the market and they're just listening what the other people are telling them. Or two, you're just buying in bad areas. When those housing crises happen, the middle class, it really gets hit. So those are usually your renting, your hardworking class. They're renting from you. So let's just say, you have just for example, in Fort Smith, Arkansas, Whirlpool is huge here. Whirlpool leaves, and Fort Smith really suffers from that. And I think in my opinion, I run into people all the time. I don't know the real statistics on it, but it seems like people are still suffering from Whirlpool leaving. And every city has that one big factory or that one huge employer that is really a big employer in the area. Let's just say they leave. You don't know the location. You don't know that they're probably going to leave. You buy a property. Now you got 50% vacancy. You got a 4-unit property and 2-year tenants leave because they worked at that factory and they no longer have a job. So location is another thing, and that's, like I said, either market knowledge of the location or just really buying in bad locations. So ultimately, the two things, really knowing your locations, not over leveraging, getting the right mortgages and debt in place. Even if you're doing second mortgages and you're borrowing money for the down payments, you want to make sure you have the right debt and you're not over leveraging. And ultimately, you want to make sure that you're cash flowing. The point of investing is to build wealth for your family over time. So you're in this for the long haul, and you want to be able to cash flow in order to keep those properties running efficiently. So these are mistakes that you want to avoid. If you have any more questions or you would like me to analyze a property you have, give me a shout. So go to ArkansasMultifamilyExpert.com/schedule. I'll get you my email. You email the property to me. I'll analyze it the same day and give you some feedback on your property if you guys have a property you'd like me to analyze. So avoid these mistakes. Don't do this.